Now, let's head to Wits University. We do understand that a mass meeting is set to get underway at Wits University now. The Wits SRC has been meeting with management since yesterday and is giving feedback to students tonight. They also expected to update on whether protests will continue tomorrow. Reporter Pule Letshwiti-Jones has management's response to students' demands. He joins us now from Braamfontein. Pule, what is management saying and what is tomorrow going to look like?
Yeah. Well, a very good evening, Heidi. We're still waiting to hear what the mass message will be about when the SRC addresses fellow students who came here today. In fact, I got one document here where we know it was released by the university where it says that one of the resolutions that was supposed to be met is in regards to the issue of allowing students to register. And the university says, given the resources or constraints, the university is not able to allow all students across the programs, whether full-time, part-time, or occasional, to register without them meeting the registration requirements. So that's something which is quite an obligation, quite a concern for many political structures in the university. And joining me right now, of course, is the EFFSC who speak to us this evening before that meeting takes place. I'm also going to speak to the SRC. Let's chat to the EFF before we get to the SRC. Thank you very much for speaking to us, guys. Now, are you guys satisfied with the meeting and the outcomes of the meeting?
So from the meeting we had with management as the SRC, we saw that management, especially with the document that they just released to us with the responses to the demands we made, the university is simply arrogant and it doesn't want to meet our demands. And the demand that your news reporter is speaking about, in particular the one about registrations, right? What we have a problem with is that the university spends millions and millions of rands on marketing alone, right? And all of this money could be transferred and made sure that students are registered for the year of 2023. Because our demand to the university was that for the year of 2023, they need to ensure all students, irregardless of the amount they owe, irregardless of the program they're doing, irregardless of if they're attending full-time, part-time, or occasional, and also irregardless of if they're undergraduate or postgraduate students, they need to register. And then the university just simply said that they won't be able to register these students, and the only students they'll be able to register are students that get PCD, right? Yeah. However, and the PCD is also, it's PCD without conditions. This is exclusionary to many students on campus because there's a lot of things that go into the academic progression of students, and just defining it according to if the student got PCD or not is very exclusionary because it then doesn't account for the majority of students either way. So then that defeats the whole purpose of why we came here. And another issue that we have with the institution is that with accommodation, they've simply refused to give us any bids for accommodation. And I think this is a very damning stance from the university because what it's saying is that they are fine with students sleeping in libraries, they are fine with students sleeping in our offices, they are fine with students being homeless and students being subjected or potentially subjected to violence.
But they said they're reviewing the accommodation policy though.
No, they're reviewing the accommodation policy for 2023. That accommodation policy they're reviewing is with regards to external accommodation meeting the NSFAS rates. Yeah. So the reviewing of the policy would not yield any results right now. So then if they're telling us by reviewing the policy, we agree the policy should be reviewed because it is exclusionary. However, they're not meeting us with the demands we have right now on an immediate basis.
Okay. So what happens from Monday?
From Monday, we promise we're taking vets toe-to-toe because seemingly they are not giving us the positive response as per the interest of the students. Clearly, their interest is not on academically inclining these students because even still today, students are still sleeping in libraries. Yeah. How are we then saying we want to advance the education systems or the educational generations that will take this country to the next level if we have students that are deprived of their rights to learn?
So does this mean shutdown will continue Monday?
The shutdown is definitely continuing tomorrow morning.
All right. Thank you very much. Of course, there's EFF joining us this evening for that interview. But let me speak to Karabo Asal as well, SRC. Thank you very much. It seems as though you guys spoke to the Wits management, but other political structures are vowing to continue with the strike on Monday. Is this something you agree with as the SRC structure?
So as an SRC member, I can only relate to the masses what the position of the general SRC is. And so currently there are colleagues of mine in a meeting in our boardroom currently discussing what the way forward will be. And that will further be confirmed by what we say to students today and how they receive the feedback that we got from the senior executive management team. So I would say let's find out first what the position of the SRC is as to whether the protest will continue tomorrow or not.
But are you satisfied with the response you've received?
Certainly not. I mean, there are demands of ours that we set forth to the senior executive team, and we did feel yesterday that there was some progress in terms of the negotiations. However, it's surprising to find that this is now their response, having consulted with the Vice-Chancellor who wasn't in the meeting yesterday.
On a scale of 10, what would you think the response is? Are you happy or not?
I can't then say, because I would then be personalizing it if I put it on a scale. However, what I'd say is my position is to relay what the SRC as a general feels.
Okay. So you're about to address possibly hundreds of students who are gathered here tonight at the amphitheatre. What is the message to them?
Our message to them is to firstly relay or give feedback as to what happened in the management team meeting yesterday with the senior executive team, and then of course take opinions or suggestions or questions from the ground to find out what the students say themselves, as we are led by the students. We are here to represent the views of the students.
But overall, I'm just trying to get like a sense of the SRC. Overall, majority, what is majority saying? Are you guys happy with the feedback, or you contempt, or you really not happy?
That will then be communicated by the president once they conclude the meeting upstairs.
All right, thank you very much. As Wasala, SRC member, speaking to us while we're waiting to see what will happen this evening. The EFF says they're not quite happy with the response they received from the Wits management, but we're waiting to see what the president of the SRC at Wits University will relay to the students in a couple of minutes from now. But it seems as though other political structures are willing to continue with the protest from tomorrow. Hundreds of students gathered here tonight. It will be interesting to hear what message we receive from the SRC this evening.
So, Pule, just for clarity purposes, the EFF has told you that they will be going ahead tomorrow and will continue with their protest, but the SRC saying that the president will, the SRC president, that is, will address students now, and a decision will then be finalized as to whether or not they will continue. Am I understanding this correctly?
Yeah, definitely. Look, the university gave the response today saying they're willing to work with what they can. There's only a certain limitation of how they can respond to some of the demands. They've vowed to actually meeting the SRC halfway, but the SRC feels as though some of the demands will not fully met. They feel as though they were promised that some of the demands will be met, but today, this evening, standing right here, they are still unhappy with some of the demands having not been met. We also do understand, Heidi, that while that's the case, the EFFSC is saying they're completely not happy with the response from the Wits management, and therefore they've vowed to continue with the protest as from tomorrow. Now, I can tell you something right now. This means the EFF will be joined by other institutions as well, such as the University of Johannesburg, who've vowed to actually protest tomorrow as well. And we could be seeing this protest being intensified in the streets of Braamfontein tomorrow.
Just for clarity purposes again, Pule, what time is the SRC going to address students there where you are now?
Well, it was expected to start at about 8 p.m. I see now it's just about 25 past 8. Therefore, it's a bit delayed, particularly because the president had to be briefed by some of the SRC members. Therefore, it means this meeting may start late in the evening, just maybe before 9 o'clock. And therefore, once that's done, we'll continue to give you feedback of the outcomes of today's meetings.
Sure, we'll definitely keep tabs and come back to you as soon as we know when that meeting starts. That's Pule Letshwiti-Jones on efforts to end the ongoing shutdown at Wits. And as you heard the EFF saying, they will continue with their protest tomorrow. And as Pule said, it will most likely spill into other universities, such as the University of Johannesburg. It's going to be interesting to see if this happens in a number of other provinces as well. But we'll get clarity from Pule a little later on.